Hello and welcome back to Fun the Damn Life. This episode, I'm going to be talking more about Overflow, and I feel like I want to front load this podcast to talk about Overflow because it's my thing. While I know I have talked about Overflow in previous episodes, and I've even spoken really about how to calculate it, I thought I'd go through some common questions as to what Overflow is, how it's different, how it works. So in short, let's do a short overview of what the Overflow Formula is and how it works. So my Overflow Formula is a way of managing your money in your business so that you are regularly and strategically saving money in your business. And that money can be used to cover low sales months, to pay off debt, business or personal, to fund a holiday, as I spoke in the last episode, and to just for you to use, for you to live your best life, for you to fund your damn life. Okay, so it's knowing that your revenue comes in, your expenses go out, and you're left with profit. Now, what most people do here is they put aside a percentage for tax if they're good, and then they'll pay themselves the rest. What they'll do is they'll use their bank account to make the decision as to how much they can afford them to pay themselves, because often when we look at any one point in the month, there might not be a couple of grand sat in there because cash flows. It comes in and out at different points of the month. So some days you might have £300 in there, some days you might have £3,000 in there, and then the next expense goes out and it's back down again. That is normal. That's completely normal. What my method does is it is designed to kind of show you how much you should actually have in your bank account if you let it accrue, and then what to do with that money. So it will include paying yourself, contributing to your pension, paying off personal business debt, building personal business savings, and utilizing the overflow. That's kind of the premise, right? And so within that, there's a cash flow tracker that kind of helps you work out exactly how much that's going to be, or roughly how much it's going to be, how you're using your money essentially. And then there's the Overflow Formula, which is kind of like the name of this like banking management system, which allows you to pay yourself the same consistent salary every single month on the same day of the month. So let's get into the questions. Isn't this just profit first with a Q to name? And no. The premise behind Profit First is this idea that we need to be focusing on profit on business owners, and this I agree with. Tick. The next premise is that you need to kind of move your money into all these different accounts so they're always kind of accounted for. And there are a number of reasons why I don't agree with that. I don't think you need that many accounts. He teaches a 5-account method. I don't think you need 5 accounts, but also his method is very much founded on the idea of you can't be trusted with money, and therefore you need to really divide your money up and almost micromanage it. And we are not about that here. I'm all about helping you build trust in your relationship with money, not reinforce the stories that you're telling yourself that you are bad with money. So that's kind of there. And the way that Profit First works is you allocate everything on a percentage. And he recommends starting with 1% profit. And I don't know about you, I have bigger aspirations than 1% profit. And I get it. I do get his. I've read the book. I do get it. I even tried implementing it. I get it. But it just doesn't work for so many people. And that's because at the end of the day, your bills are not percentages. Your bills are not percentages. So how can putting aside 30% of your revenue for operating expenses ever help you? You're either going to have too many or too much. And I know people are like, oh, you're meant to customize it to like what you need. I still think it's too much. So no, this is not Profit First, because we don't base off percentages. Like I said, your bills are not a percentage of your income. Your bills are your bills. Okay. I need to know that I can bring home the exact amount of cash that I need to every single month, that I have agreed to every single month. Okay. So to do that, I need to know exactly how much money I'm going to have, not a percentage. So I just go, I need £2,000 on the 30th of every single month. Thank you very much. It's that simple. It is that simple. I want to pay myself £2,000 on the 30th of every single month. Okay, I'm going to run my business to make sure I have £2,000 on the 30th of every single month. So no, it's not profit first, it's the Overflow Formula. Thank you. Do you have to track every single transaction? AKA, will this turn me into an anxious bookkeeper? Yes. And I want to kind of like caveat this by going, this is that one area of your finances where I do think you should micromanage, and that is your business. And that is because business finances they really do depend, like your success in business does actually come down to your business finances. 82% of businesses fail because of cash flow issues. 50% of businesses fail in the first 5 years because of cash flow issues. Fail at business. And I don't want you to fail at business, okay? Because this is so fundamental. But the caveat is with your personal finances, I don't believe you need to track every single transaction. I haven't tracked every single transaction for probably like 6 years now. When I first attempted budgeting, realized that was way too much. Especially I think with personal finances, this idea of like tracking everything, you hold a lot of emotion behind every single spend because spending is emotional, especially in our personal life. Whereas in business, it feels a little bit more logical. It feels a little bit more like, oh, I'm investing, I'm making a decision for the future. Whereas with personal, all we see is, I shouldn't have spent that money, I shouldn't have spent that money, that money could have been used better else here, blah, 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 blah. We don't need that. No, we don't need that. So with personal money, I pay myself, I give myself a like kind of joyful spending budget that goes on a joyful spending card, and that is my card I have to use in the month. That's my own problem. So that's that. So I don't need to micromanage what I'm spending my money on. I just kind of have an allowance and keep track of that. I can go into that more on another episode if you want to learn more about how I manage my personal finances and how I help my clients manage their personal finances. Then let me know. Happy to do an episode on that. But with business, I do think it is really, really important to track every single transaction. And that is because you can see exactly where your money is coming from. You can see where it's going, and you can see what you got a return on investment on. So if you invested in something and you have that in your spreadsheet, and remember, I have a really, really simple spreadsheet, okay? It's one sheet, one tab cash flow tracking spreadsheet. You do not need a tab for every single month. Jesus Christ. What are you tracking? What are you tracking? You do not need that. So yeah, that's how I do it. It's actually not that hard of a job. And I think people think bookkeeping is harder than it is because we've grown up with this narrative of, I can't manage money, I can't be good with money, or like, you maybe had a bad maths teacher, and so it's like, I'm bad at maths, I'm bad with numbers, money is numbers, and therefore no. When you have a really simple spreadsheet and you have a really simple, like, you are on top of it, you either do one of two things, and I do both of these things actually, and I actually would recommend doing both, but if you're gonna do one of them, do the second one. The first one is, when you make that spend or when you make that sale, just update it. Literally takes less than 60 seconds because everything else is already there. You just need to go doop, doop, doop on your keyboard and you're done. Okay? Keep your spreadsheet in your bookmarks. I've got it as one of my shortcuts. I literally open it up, find the category, bung it in, like 10 seconds, honestly. It takes no time at all. The other thing that I do and that I recommend everyone does is go through, I do a financial like audit. That sounds more fun, harder than it is, but essentially on the first week of every single month, I will go back through my bank statement for the previous month. So I currently use a business bank account and a business credit card in order to spend money in my business. So I will literally just go back through and make sure that all the transactions are right. So if on my spreadsheet it says that I paid, I don't know, £380 to a brand designer, I'm going to go, did that come out? Was there like any currency conversions? Was it 380? Was it 376 point blah, blah, blah? I'm going to make sure that that is correct. That just means going forward to the next month, I already know what has happened. I know how much overflow I have from last month. I know what I was able to pay myself. I know what payment plans I have, what needs updating, all of that thing. I'm kind of making decisions from a place of knowledge, from a place of data, from a place of confidence, as opposed to not knowing my numbers whatsoever, maybe even outsourcing the numbers to a bookkeeper or to an accountant, and then still not having that confidence in making those financial decisions. The one reason why I'm so confident making financial decisions is just because I know my numbers, and the only way to know your numbers is to track them. So I'm sorry, but yes, you will need to track, but it's not as hard as it sounds. And when you work with me, we work on kind of building that, it's like exposure therapy of looking at a spreadsheet and looking at the numbers and knowing how to read them. And honestly, most business owners I work with get this in one session. It's really not that difficult. You just haven't been taught. That's literally all it is. You've never been taught how to do this. Okay, third question. What if my revenue swings? Will overflow ever happen? Okay, yes. So I want you to think about, if you're a photographer, chances are you've been doing this for years, but for some reason, other business owners have not implemented the financial strategy of photographers. And what photographers do brilliantly is they know they have really busy summer seasons because everyone wants their photos done when the sun is really nice. There's natural sunlight. That's like a big thing in photography. So everyone wants their photos in the summer, which means there's large parts of the year where they know they're not going to get many sales. I know fantastic photographers who have diversified their offerings. In the winter months when they're not doing as many shoots, they are SEO specialists and teach other photographers how to get their photography showing up on the first page of Google to their dream clients, okay? They've kind of diversified their income streams. Others go, well, do you know what? I'm just going to manage my money so that when it comes in the high sales months, the high cash months, I'm putting that aside, only paying myself what I need and investing in things I can afford and saving the rest for when things are quieter. That is all the overflow formula is in a nutshell. Okay, so if your revenue swings, that's fine. That is normal. You are a business owner. Okay, you do not have a 30k a year salary, 40k, 50k a year salary. Okay, you're a business owner. Your income is going to fluctuate. There's this big myth in the online space that, you know, you should be striving for consistent income. Consistent income doesn't exist. Okay, yes, you can get to a point where you are generating consistency between a range. Okay, and what I mean by that is I can say I've been making consistent 5k months for the last 10 months, okay? And I can say that because I can look at my spreadsheet and go, in the last 10 months, I've earned between 4.5 and like just under 6. So the average is gonna be 5k, okay? Was it 5k every single month? No, it was not. Okay, that is normal. That is business ownership. So I just want to like undo that belief that your business should be generating consistent 5k, 10k, 20k months. Bullshit. Okay, especially if you have a launch model, if you have a seasonal business, yes, you're going to have higher cash months. I have a launch next month. Okay, I'm actually expecting a few people to pay in full. What does that mean? That means that I am going to have a high cash month. What I'm not going to do is spend it all so that the next month I'm just living off the payment plans. Now, could I still live off the payment plans? Yes, I can. That's the business that I've built. Like, that's the model that I've built around my Wow, what are the words I'm trying to say? That's the financial structure in which I have based my business around. Yeah, I think that's the sentence I meant to say. So I know that I'd be fine. And I know I could spend all that money, but I know the numbers, okay? What's happening is people don't know the numbers. They have a high cash month. We assume we can always make high cash months. Like, one is evidence, right? If I have one cash month, that is evidence that I'm going to have a cash month again and again and again. It's not. It's just not. And that is the nature of business. And that is okay. That's what I want you to go away with. Not, I'm doing it wrong. Just, I'm doing what I thought was right. Because we don't learn from financial experts, we learn from business people. We learn from great marketers on the internet, okay? Most people whose content you are seeing that you think is great, they're just great marketers, okay? That's their business. Anyway, I move on. Can I start if I'm still carrying debt? Yes, of course. You can build overflow before you pay off debt. In fact, I would highly recommend it because it's more important that you have a financial cushion than it is for you to pay off debt. What I mean by that is if you do not have a financial cushion and you continue to pay off debt, something's going to happen, because of course it is, because that's human life and existence. You'll then get back into debt and feel bad, or like that you're a failure and something like that. No. Stop paying off debt, build up savings first, and then you can pay off your debt. I did a whole episode on that a few episodes back. How long until I actually see the extra cash piling up? That, I mean, depends on your income level, depends on your profit margins, depends how you're using that profit in your business. If you are someone that has really high profit margins and you are, you know, paying yourself half of that, you've got half of your profit left to build an overflow. It's going to depend on business to business. Again, every business is different. Every income model is different. Every month is different. That is business. But what you can do is over the long term, you will see that money grow. Like, that's just a fact. What's the minimum monthly revenue to make this worth? Well, this is going to depend for everyone. It has to be more than your take-home pay. Okay. And this is why I always start with, instead of going, how much should I pay myself from my business? Start with, how much do you need to be paid? How much does it cost to live your life? What are your bills? How much do you spend on discretionary or joyful spending? What are your debt minimums? What are your savings goals? How much does it cost you to live your life? Find that out, and that is how much money you need to be making in profit. Obviously a little bit more, because you want to do profit after tax as well. So your profit has to pay into your tax account. Your profit has to pay you. Your profit may have other things you want it to do, but ultimately after tax and owner's pay, that is overflow. So if you need to take home 3k and your tax is 1k, you need to make 5k. Then you'll have £1,000 in overflow. If you make 4k, you'll still be fine because you still have enough for tax and owner's pay. And then obviously if your expenses are another £1,000, you need another £1,000. Okay. Will I need to slash my spending? Yes and no. Depends. Have you tracked your spending? Do you know what your business is spending money on? And do you know if that's providing you with a return on investment? Does this replace my accountant or bookkeeping software? Again, yes and no. A lot of my clients keep their accountant because it's just useful come tax time. But the difference is they now know what their accountant is talking about. They now have the confidence to interpret their bookkeeper's data, okay? When their accountant congratulates them on their tax, on their profit, or their revenue increase, and they're like, haha, why do I still feel poor? They know why. So, no, it doesn't. If you want it to, it can. I don't have an accountant, I don't have a bookkeeper, because I know what I'm doing, but I am also a financial expert, okay? Will I get an accountant? Absolutely yes, because can I be asked for VAT? No, I cannot. So, I'm very much like I'll deal with it when I get there person. But if you're someone that, has the anxiety around money and you want to keep your accountant and bookkeeper, yes, do. But you still need to do all this yourself. You still need to know what the numbers are saying. You still need to understand the data, because in business, we make decisions from data. Data is what tells us what offers are working, what marketing channels are working, what content is performing well. Likes on a post is data, the same way that how much profit you made in a launch is data. You then make decisions in the same way with the content. With a post on Instagram, you're going, if that gets really high likes, you're going to be saying to yourself, that's great content. Clearly my audience resonates with that topic or, that experience. I'm going to make more content on that. If it flops, you're going to go, maybe I'll try it one more time in a similar, maybe I'm going to reframe it. But then after that, maybe I just go, do you know what? That's not resonating with my audience, and move on. Financial data is exactly the same. If you have a fantastic launch, and when I say fantastic, I don't just mean sales, because if you made loads of sales, but then you ended up paying like a marketing agency, XYZ, and all your profit wasn't actually a good launch, it just looks good on paper. What I mean is a profitable launch. If you have a profitable launch, you can go, great. What I did in that launch was rinse and repeat, okay? If you did not have a profitable launch, that tells you not to do it again. But do you know right now how profitable your last launch was? Just because you made little sales doesn't mean it wasn't profitable. And then of your sales, what worked, what didn't work? What email angles worked? All of these things. It's just data. We're planning some podcast things. We're thinking, how many podcasts can we record in this time frame? And I was like, I can't work that out in my head. I need to Google it. So yes, yes you can, because I have my Confident Cash Flow Tracker, which does all the maths for me. One tab spreadsheet does all the maths for me. Thank God. How does it handle taxes and VAT without nasty surprises? Because you will know at any given point how much tax is owed. Because you will know what your profit is. And you can work out, looking at past tax returns, what your average tax is. You can talk to your accountant if you have one, but we can work out exactly what percentage of your profit you need to be saving for tax, so you will be prepared. No need to undersave, no need to oversave. You will be prepared. Same with VAT. Again, it's just data. Once you know what you're looking for, you can find it. You know, if you know to look for 20% of your sales for VAT, if you know to look for 20% of expenses that you bought in the UK that had VAT added on, you know what to do. So yeah, yes, is the short answer there. Does it integrate with Xero or QuickBooks? No, because it's a spreadsheet. What it will do though is no doubt Xero or QuickBooks or Free Agent is connected to your business bank account. What you'll be able to do now is spot any differences straight away. So what I have is I will log into my Free Agent, which is the accounting software that I use. I'll look at it and I can tell straight away if something's not right, because I know my numbers, because I have the spreadsheet in which I know that. And the reason why I wouldn't use an accounting software over a spreadsheet is because accounting softwares are designed to be intuitive to the accountants, to the people that have built them, to the financial experts. To everyday people, doesn't make sense. And everyone I talk to always says, especially QuickBooks, is not intuitive. So that is why I created my Google Sheet. When I created my Google Sheet, I didn't actually know what I was doing. I mean, like, I was a financial expert, but in personal finances, I was kind of just coming into the business world and trying to see if I could apply any of that personal finance knowledge into business. Turns out I can. But when I was creating this spreadsheet, my main priority wasn't how do I tell my profit and loss and how do I determine my runway and other things that, you know, are useful, but I don't really care about right now. No, I cared about, could I pay my bills? So I needed to look for, how do I know if I can pay myself my owner's pay on the day I need to pay myself? Because I was coming from a 9-to-5 job into business ownership. The 9-to-5 job paid me on the 25th of every single month. So I knew my bills came out not long after the 25th of every single month. So I needed my business to pay me around the 25th of every single month. And I know how much it needed to pay me. It needed to replace that salary. Okay. So I needed to know, am I going to have that money in order to pay myself? And that's how I worked it out. That is how I built the spreadsheet. And it's the same. And if you're Notion girlies, you'll know. Don't buy a template. Do not buy a Notion template because it's built for someone else's brain. Same with these templates on Etsy. It's built for someone else's brain. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Emilie, but if this spreadsheet is built for your brain, how do I know it's going to work for me? Because it's tried and tested, babe. Tried and tested. I have given this spreadsheet to other people with no context, like no walkthrough. And they've gone, got it. Got it. Makes sense. So much easier. It's the one, I'm telling you, it's the one. What happens when my business doubles? Does the formula scale? Maths, babe, maths. There'll be some things that you'll want to change. For example, tax rates. If you are looking like you're going to be going into the next tax bracket, then of course the amount you save for tax needs to change. But that's probably the only formula that would need to be changed. And even that's just a simple, quick fix. So yeah, yes, that works. Is it trauma informed? Yes and no. It's that thing of like, depends if you're working with me or not. Depends if, you know, we're working through the things that are coming up. I mean, I would say 9 times out of 10, just getting an accurate representation of your numbers is going to help with a lot of shame, because you'll actually know the facts now. A lot of shame comes from us telling ourselves stories about our own role in a perceived failure. Whereas when we can see the data, I've done this myself, where I've done it with like a weight loss journey, which is when my weight loss started to stall and I started to basically convince myself that it wasn't working anymore, like nothing I was trying was working, you know, I'd always be fat and all those kind of things. Then went back and looked at the numbers and really plotted them out, and actually it was working and I was losing weight. It just wasn't like quick enough in my head, so I just saw it as it wasn't working, whole thing. But until I actually saw the numbers and I saw the data and I was able to go, what is a story that I'm telling myself and what is actual fact, that I can start to undo some of that shame. So yes, in that you will now know what is the truth when it comes to your money. If you have a lot of financial shame, if you need that money coaching, then get in touch, because not only do I work with the financial strategy, I help people get through their money trauma, to rewrite their money stories through looking at the data, and alongside that, looking at as well the kind of mindset triggers and mindset rewrites that we can do. Everything I do is very neuroscience backed. I have a very logical brain, so if I can't understand it, then I'm not going to do it. Everything I do makes sense to me and it has helped other people. So if that is you, feel free to get in touch. We can talk about money coaching. Can I run it alongside your confident cash flow tracker? Yes, it's the same system. Can I implement it solo, or do you need your coach to do it right? No, you can do it yourself, which is what I actually encourage people to do. That being said, I teach this with support in Cash Flow Confident, and that is because I think it's useful, isn't it, to just know, like, am I doing the right thing? Or, because yes, you can do it yourself, absolutely. What I would say is, if you recognize that questions are going to come up and you want support doing it, then come and join Cash Flow Confident. Doors open on the 21st of July, so come on down. How does this tie into long-term wealth investing, purchase and property? Because you'll be able to pay yourself an owner's pay that accounts for those things, number one. Number two, you can utilize the overflow that you're growing to redirect into that. Cool. Will my partner or CFO actually get on board? Yes. Yes. Your partner probably will, because now you'll be able to go, I know what I'm paying myself every single month, and they'll be like, thank God. You'll be able to start contributing to savings, paying off debt, doing all the things that you want to do as a family, and it'll be really easy because you know the numbers. I mean, I hope so. I hope your CFO is on board. If your CFO is the type of person who would not get on board with you learning to understand your finances, then I'd worry. I have had people who have worked with bookkeepers and financial strategists who have implemented a different system. It's not worked. They're still working with that strategist. They've come to me, we've implemented the Overflow Formula. They've then gone back and like their finance person's fine. They're like, well, if it works for you, it's fine. So they're just happy that you found something that works. And if they're not, then fire them. Does this work for creatives and coaches, not just serious businesses? Yes, it works for everyone. I think if you have inconsistent income, this would work for your personal budgeting, honestly. I just think it works best for business owners. I think it's a really easy way of knowing how you can pay yourself every single month. Obviously in a 9-to-5, you kind of have that already. Is Overflow the same as profit? No, Overflow is profit after tax, owner's pay, other important financial goals. And what if an emergency nukes your buffer? Cool, that's what it's there for. I love that question. What if I have to use my savings? Cool, that's what they were there for. Good. Your savings are meant to be spent. Your savings are meant to be spent. You're not hoarding money. You're saving for a purpose. The purpose with Overflow is to cover low sales months to low cash months. The purpose of an emergency fund is to cover an emergency. The purpose of a breathing fund is to provide you with breathing room. Purpose of a freedom fund is to give you more freedom. Purpose of a fuck off fund is for you to be able to say fuck off to things you don't like. Okay, all of these funds have names for a reason. The money you save is meant to be spent. And now if you are one of these girlies who is squirreling away a couple of £100 every single month for just in case or for the future, stop it. No point. You're literally getting rid of cash for no reason. Unless your savings have a goal, there's kind of no point to them. And that is where I'm going to end it today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this kind of different style of chat. I usually tell you what the next episode is going to be, but I don't know because I haven't got my Notion up while I'm recording this. So I'm just going in. But yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. If you have any more questions, come up. You know where I am. You can find me on Instagram. Come and join Cash Flow Confident. Doors open on the 21st of July. It's going to be super fun. It's a 12-week sprint where you are going to learn to manage your finances, pay yourself more from your business, and become just like the richest bitches CEO. Okay? Fantastic. I will speak to you soon. Bye.